Everybody, thank you very much for joining again. This is our first vibe coding session today, and we are going to be joined by Guru, who should hopefully be in the chat. I think he is. I will invite him, promote panelist. Okay, Guru, if you can hear me, I've invited you. Awesome. But yeah, this is vibe coding session number one. We're going to be looking at how to build your first private voting app. And this is going to be an end-to-end practical tutorial where you'll build a fully working private polling app on the Logos stack. And we're joined again by Guru, who's DevRel at Logos. And I think, Guru, do you want to try and share your screen?
Yep, sure.
And then you can take it away from there. If you guys let us know where you're joining from in the chat, and drop some reacts in there as well, that'd be great. Serbia, nice. Germany, Russia, US, Uganda, nice. Malaysia. Serbia again, another one. Oh, this is cool. I like being international. Kenya, nice. Great country, Kenya. Oh, Guru's is gone. Where's he gone? Where is Guru's gone? I think Guru is going to come out of the areas. Whereabouts are you in Kenya, Stephen? I was there last summer I was in Mombasa and Nairobi, great places. Cool animals. And don't forget, we got the office hours tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. When is it? Friday. At 2 o'clock, which is where you can do technical support and ask some questions. There's a cool, you can find it on the Discord. Head over to the platform page as well. If there's always more information there. I can find that now. Let me find out. Yeah, there's a Discord server that's at 1 p.m. BST, so that's UK time. And the Logos team will be available there to answer any of your questions. I hope you guys are learning how to build the Logos stack at the moment. Maybe some of you have installed Basecamp already, or some of you have tried the tutorials which are available through this. And hopefully some of you have started building something, or maybe you're still in the ideation stage. But let's keep the engagement up, and hopefully you can come out of this series with having built something very cool. Still just waiting on Guru. What's he up to now?
I can fix that.
Okay. How many of you guys have started building then? If you could drop in the chat and see, let's see what you guys are building. Any of you guys got any cool ideas of things that you could build with a Logo stack? That'll be interesting to hear what you guys have got up to. Forked. Oh, nice. You made a Tetris. That's a cool classic game. This is workshop number, I think this is number 4 maybe out of, how many do we have left after this? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're about halfway, just over halfway with the workshops on this series. So we've got a couple of vibe coding workshops coming up now. This is about to be how to build a private plotting app, and then we're going to be learning how to build something private next week with logos, which is on a Monday. And then finally, we'll be looking at how to build a full stack logos app, which will be the final workshop. That's going to be coming on the 29th of April. And that's going to be hosted by Danish, who that will be actually his first workshop joining, but he's joining from the logos team. And hopefully by the end of this, you guys will have a bit more of an understanding of what is actually possible with the logos stack. And my screen's just running. Let us moment that you guys are using, because this is a vibe coding session. So I don't know what your favorite tools are out there. Cursor, what you use these for? Do you guys use Lovable and VO? And I think Gurus is coming back. Anti-gravity, nice, good one. Let me. Okay. Panelists. Okay, right, sweet. Gurus should be here. Anti-gravity, nice. Okay, welcome back, viewers. Hopefully this should be all good now.
Yep. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes. Are you able to share your screen?
Yeah.
Yes. Nice.
Cool.
Okay, awesome. Take it away.
All right. Sorry for the delay. I just kind of had some issues with my browser. But then, yeah, going forward, I'm Guru, and I do developer relations for Logos. And today, I'll be hosting a vibe coding session for you. But before we go into the vibe coding parts of the session, I'll also run through some theory, which my co-contributors for Logos have covered in the previous workshops, but I'll just give some of my own takes for why we are building what we are building. And then we'll be heading on to the hands-on vibe coding section, which has three different parts. But for the theory, we'll be covering mostly about the Ethereum trilogy, what Ethereum wanted to build back in the time in 2015, and how it kind of transitioned into a completely different technology, and then why browser-based applications suck in terms of safeguarding your privacy and security. And then we'll also be looking at the reason why a local first approach with logos exists, and how this can solve Web3's long forgotten problems. And then I'll also be giving an overview about the logos development stack itself. And finally, we'll be getting to do some dog fooding, which involves installing and setting up your own logos Basecamp app. And then from there, we'll be building on top of the logos Basecamp app. And the vibe coding section has three main components. The first one being building a simple Hello World UI module on Basecamp. This is the most beginner friendly thing that you can build on top of logos, just a simple plugin that says Hello World. And the second part would be a to do app that includes both the UI and the core module functionality. And finally, we'll be looking at a full stack private polling app, which is kind of basic, but then it can help you understand how logos messaging works. So yeah, let's get started. And for the first section, it's going to be about the Ethereum trilogy. So yeah, in 2014, Ethereum was far beyond just a blockchain. Ethereum was considered to be a stack, but not just a blockchain. And we had three main components in it. The first one being Ethereum itself, for consensus, where you deploy smart contracts, and this is where the programmability layer comes in. And then there's Swarm, which is a content address file storage network, which is decentralized and distributed, and this exists in different forms today. IPFS is one of them. RWeave is also another one of them. And finally, there's also Whisper, which is meant for dynamic communications. And all of these three technologies complemented each other to to kind of form what Ethereum was actually proposed to be. But eventually, over time, things did not go in the way it was expected. So today, Whisper died, Swarm struggled, and infrastructure got centralized just because the incentivization layer, which is Ethereum, got more popularity, and most of the dev tooling around the Ethereum ecosystem kind of got concentrated with the consensus layer. And you can also read more about this in Vitalik's own blog post, which is one of my favorite blog posts. And this is probably the uh, spot where people started using this word cypherpunk. I don't think most of the Web3 ecosystem knew about this word before this blog post went out. But yeah, it's pretty interesting if you wish to learn more about the Ethereum mission and stuff. So the reason why this happened is because we wanted speed, speculation, and better UX. And the compromises that we did for making Ethereum in the way it is right now is sovereignty, privacy, and resilience, because you kind of don't have any of these three things if you use an Ethereum DApp in today's world. So basically, the way I infer this is we reinvented Web 2 without privacy but on a blockchain. So looking at how browser-based Web3 works in the Ethereum ecosystem, you as a user use a DApp, decentralized app, which is hosted on a hyperscaler, which talks to an RPC provider that runs a Ethereum full node on another hyperscaler, which then talks to the decentralized network. But with local first Web3, we are kind of evading the whole two steps over here. Sorry for not updating the image. I was just doing it a few minutes before this workshop. But then you kind of have this user talk to a DApp, which is Logos Basecamp, which kind of accesses the decentralized network without having any middleman hosted on a hyperscaler. So you kind of get rid of both the elements here, which is the DApp element hosted on hyperscaler and the RPC provider hosted on a hyperscaler. By hyperscaler, I mean pretty much anything that includes AWS, Vercel, or anything that you use for cloud deployments these days. But yeah, this is how today's browser-based Web3 looks like. And the most interesting part is that the application layer privacy itself only solves 20% of the exposure, and 80% of the exposure happens below the application layer in the protocol layer. And there's multiple stages to this. Metadata can be exposed in different areas. It can be messaging platforms where you share your wallet addresses, or it can be RPC calls that you make to wallets that you use every day, or even ISP calls. So there's like a bunch of these that can result in exposure of your private metadata. And again, these can be user choice failures or also infrastructure failures. For example, user choice failures could be using a centralized RPC, which can probably be decentralized on the outlook, but it can still be operationally centralized. So you don't really know about how RPCs are using your data. They can simply offer this to advertising or even compliance in the worst case. So yeah, there can be two different types of failures. And if you wish to learn more about this, we have a blog post from one of my co-contributors, and it kind of takes you deep dive into each of these layers. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out if you're interested. So the conclusion that we have from all of these different stages of metadata exposure is that the browser itself is the biggest attack surface. And we do have some events in the last year which kind of validates the statement, because we had Bybit hack, which is probably one of the most which was the biggest of all Web3 hacks, I guess. And this happened because of a compromised front end hosted in a centralized service. And there's other instances like the Trust Wallet supply chain hack, which ended up getting a few millions drained. And then there's also Ledger Connect Kit, which got more dApps affected. So every single decentralized application that kind of integrated the Connect Kit SDK was affected because of this particular reason. And all of these happened just because the browser was the attack surface. And smart contracts were not really broken, they work, but the web stack itself is broken in today's world. And RPC providers know a lot more than what you think they do. They know your IP address, they know your wallet balances, intent, and they can kind of correlate your IP address to a wallet to kind of give a physical identity to your wallet, which is not really uh, in line with the privacy aspect that Ethereum tries to propose. And the funniest part is top 2% of the block builders control more than 80% of the Ethereum blocks, which again is against the decentralization side of things. So the settlement layer is decentralized with Ethereum, but the visibility layer is definitely centralized. And the solution is not just a private blockchain, but a privacy preserving tech stack that is built on top of sovereign infrastructure. And that's Logos. We look at Logos as a tech stack and not just another private layer 1 or layer 2 blockchain. You can think of this like a shift from the mainframe era to the personal computers era, because in the mainframe era, you had all the computation concentrated in the middle, and then if you have a computer, it was just using the computation which was concentrated in the middle. But with the personal computers era, you have the computation distributed across many personal computers, and that's the kind of computers that we use right now. And the analogy for comparing Logos to Ethereum is very similar to this. And yeah, browser-based Web3 quietly brought us back to pseudo decentralization, even though we use decentralized apps which are hosted on centralized providers. And another way of thinking about this is from renting a house to owning it, because you can't really build a sovereign system on rented infrastructure. And by rented infrastructure here, I mean RPCs, because the way you interact with the blockchain is by renting an RPC, which is like renting a full node that someone else runs for you. And the someone can see all the metadata that is being sent into the RPC, and they can kind of make use of it in any way they want to. And this is already happening. A lot of the RPC providers are already using your data for advertisement purposes, but beyond which this can also be organized in a compliance vertical, which is not really visible for us. We don't really know if that's happening. And the best part is some of the most resilient privacy networks ever built solve this problem already. And Web3 is just confronting this right now. But for example, Tor and Torrent have solved this like years ago. Tor operates on a completely different way. You don't really use something like Chrome or Brave to use Tor. You have completely different ways of accessing it. There is a friction, but then that's how you attain state of the art privacy. And that's also very similar to Torrent. There have been government institutions censoring Torrent over the last couple of years, but you can't really stop Torrent, because the way you use Torrent is by using a torrent client like BitTorrent, which is over here. And BitTorrent uses the torrent binaries to kind of communicate to the torrent network directly from your machine. You're not using an RPC over here to communicate with torrent. You're just using your client that runs locally on your machine to communicate directly with the network. And that's how both of these examples solve the exact issue that Web3 is facing right now. And Logos is trying to solve this problem for Web3. And the way we do this is by implementing a very modular architecture. We have something called Logos Core, which is a combination of multiple user modules. And we have some pre-baked user modules, which are storage, messaging, and blockchain. you can just think about Ethereum, Swarm, and Whisper from the past. That's kind of very similar to this. We are trying to stick on to the original Ethereum ethos. So that's how we have a stack of tooling that can help you build decentralized applications. And this is also modular, so there can be more user modules that can be introduced into Logos Core in the future. And yeah, these modules have properties uh, specific to themselves. I'll be giving a quick overview about the properties. So for Logos storage, it's a content address storage network. Data is identified by cryptographic hashes and not location, very similar to IPFS. Each and every file that you upload into Logos storage has its own CID or a content identifier, and that's how you identify your files. And we also have verifiable redundancy and uptime for maximum reliability. It's super durable. And we also have private retrievals, which is something that the other decentralized storage networks don't have. You can make encrypted queries and also access files with decentralized access control. And the intention is to replace any kind of centralized storage solution like Amazon S3 buckets, IPFS gateways that are also very similar to how RPCs work. IPFS gateways simply work in a way where someone hosts an IPFS full node for you, and then you kind of rent the full node to access a particular file. And with Logo storage, you don't really rent any infrastructure, it's all fully sovereign. And we also have Logos messaging, which was previously known as Waku, and a lot of projects have integrated Waku in the past and have been using Waku in production for quite a while. So this is probably one of my personal favorites out of all the user modules that I mentioned. And also in the vibe coding session today, I'll be demonstrating you how to use Logos messaging in your applications that you build on top of Logos. So yeah, we have sender receiver unlinkability for maximum anonymity. We have privacy preserving DDoS protection with rate limiting nullifiers. So this is one of my favorite features of Waku and Logos messaging. The best part is you don't really depend on an identity to create a DOS protection layer on top of your network. Everything happens without an identity, completely anonymous with this technology called RLN, rate limiting nullifiers. And you can read more about this in our research blogs as well. And like other modules, Logos messaging can also work on resource constrained devices, and is also can also work on any device that can be as resource restricted as a mobile or a Raspberry Pi. And this can replace Discord, Telegram servers, API gateways, centralized coordination tools, or even centralized relay networks, because messaging is basically a relay where you can kind of send data within the network. By messaging, we don't really mean chat. This refers to messaging, which can be any kind of one-to-one or one-to-many communication. So that's Logos messaging. And finally, Logos blockchain. I'm pretty sure my colleagues, Vaslav, uh, went on a deep dive through Logos blockchain in the previous workshops. So yeah, I'll take no further ado and I'll go forward to the vibe coding session. And finally, Logos Core is the superset or the developer offering for anyone who wants to build on top of Logos. So if you wish to build an application on top of Logos, you do that by implementing Logos Core, and Logos Core makes sure that you kind of have access to each of these user modules at your disposal. You don't have to use a user module by compulsion, but you can also kind of opt in for user modules to the ones that you want. So imagine this to be a native workbench that can seamlessly help you integrate any of these offerings that Logos has. So yeah, Ethereum solved trust in computation, but the next decade must solve trust in everything around it. It's just not about the blockchain. It's just not about the stack that you're using to build applications, but it is also about how you use applications. And Logos tries to solve this by making sure that the vision is not just the chain, but an internet that users could trust end to end. And for this, we have Logos Basecamp, which is our client built on top of Logos core. Imagine this to be the BitTorrent of Torrent. So Logos Basecamp is a client that is built on top of Logos core, and anyone can build their own client for Logos by implementing it with Logos core. But Basecamp is our official client, and you can download Basecamp already from our builder hub over here. It's currently in alpha, but then people are already building on top of Basecamp, and today we'll also be building three quick modules for Basecamp, and I'll also be explaining you about what Basecamp is. So for Basecamp, three important things to know. Basecamp is an application client powered by Logos Core, like I mentioned before. And there are two different types of modules within Basecamp. At least that's how I see it. The first one is the UI plugins, and the second one is the core modules. So in web developer terminology, I would say this is more of the front end kind of thing, where you build front ends on Logos Basecamp using UI plugins. And then if you want to implement a functionality that requires something like a backend, that's where you get into core modules. So I'm this is my understanding, because I've never touched Qt or C++ before a few weeks. So I'm kind of using AI to my benefit to build apps on top of Logos Basecamp. So yeah, you can run Logos Basecamp on your local machine, and it talks to the blockchain directly and not a centralized RPC. And this can replace browser-based Web3 apps that leak your metadata. So going on, I think, yeah, this is the last slide, and then we go right into the code, which is probably the most exciting part for me. So yeah, building on Basecamp, you build .lgx files. Every single module or a plugin that you build on Basecamp is basically a .lgx file that you can compile from source. And again, there are two types of modules, like I mentioned before. There's UI plugins, which are the front end side of your modules. And this can be built with .qml, which is the Qt format, and .cpp, which is C++. And for core modules, you can currently you can just build it with C++. So this is my very high level understanding. Imagine me to be a web developer who kind of transitioned into building desktop apps like a few weeks ago. So this is how I understood things. And today we will be vibe coding three things. The first one being the Hello World UI, which is a simple UI only plugin. There's no core module in it. And then there's a to-do app where you have a core module and a UI plugin. And the UI plugin here is the front end that is being served, and the core module is kind of the logic which is used for saving to-dos and kind of making sure that the to-dos are checked or unchecked based on user interactions, and also persisting the data across different sessions. So this kind of takes you a bit into a complex part, which is building core modules for your UI interface to use. And finally, we have the private polling application, and this uses one of the pre-baked modules, which is Logos Delivery. And another feedback that I received from a couple of hackers who've been trying to build on top of Logos is that the terminologies could be a bit confusing. For example, we have something called Logos Delivery and Logos Chat, and both of these modules are subsets of the messaging module, which is Logos Messaging. So we broadly call it Logos Messaging, but the way you implement Logos Messaging is by using the module of your preference, and the module that fits your use case perfectly. So delivery is a general purpose module which can be used for any kind of dynamic communications. But for chat, that's catered more towards building chat applications specifically. So this is how I understand Logos delivery and Logos chat. So you can see both the modules in the next few minutes, and I'll help you navigate with those. So yeah, that's pretty much with the slides for today. Let's go dive into the code. Yes, sir. Cool. So before that, I'm gonna give a quick preview of how the Logos Basecamp app itself looks like. So this is the Logos Basecamp app, and over here you see a lot of these icons on the left tray, and these icons are basically the modules that you build. For example, there's a counter module that comes baked with the application. Excuse me. And you can play with this by incrementing the counter. This is just a module that is pre-built into the application, and then we have like more modules, and some of these modules are also built for this tutorial. So yeah, we have the 3 colorful modules that I built specific for this workshop, and I'll be taking you through the step-by-step of each of these modules, and I'll also be explaining you how to build these modules and import them into Logos Basecamp. But yeah, if you want to install a module, let's say if you want to install the delivery module, the way you do this is by going over here, over here. Yeah, it should be here. Yeah, package manager. And in package manager, you have like a lot of categories on the left. For example, the blockchain category here displays you all the blockchain modules. You can also see the types here. There's a core module, a UI module, and another core module as well. And there's also a short description for it. But if you don't really know why a module exists over here, or what is the purpose of a module, make sure to reach out to us in the Builder Hub channel on Discord, and we'll help you figure that out. I'm still figuring out the purpose behind a lot of modules myself. So yeah, so let's try looking at the delivery module. And also don't be surprised if this crashes once in a while, like it did right now. This is still in alpha, so yeah, expect a lot of crashes. Let me try opening it again. Anyways, the way you can install a module is by pressing a particular module and then hitting the install button, and then this comes up over here. If it's a UI module, it's going to be showing up here, and if it's a core module, it shows up over here. So yeah, that's pretty much about the Logos Basecamp app. Again, this is still in beta, so we need a lot of help in dogfooding the application itself. So the best way to contribute in this particular direction is by going to our Builder Hub, and we have a contribution board here that kind of gives you some avenues to start contributing, and we do have a dogfooding part here, which is Basecamp module creation, or there's also another dogfooding part where you can run through the quick start guide for running a headless blockchain node, and then you can give us some feedback. So these are really good avenues for contributing, even if you are not keen to write code. This is really helpful for us in kind of processing the feedback to make sure that the application won't crash like it did a few minutes ago. So let me try closing this and opening it again. Anyways, I think we can go ahead because I have the core module for Logos delivery already installed. So yeah, I think we're good to go. I can show you the coding part already. But then if you wish to install a user module into this, you can press on the install LGX package button here, and you can simply pick the .lgx file of the package that you wish to install, and this just comes up over here. It gets imported into your UI module, or similarly for core module, and then shows up over here. So yeah, let's go into the coding parts. I'll have to pull my plot code here. Cool. So I already pushed all the code for this tutorial in a GitHub repository. I'll be sharing it soon after we complete this tutorial. But then, yeah, I have a couple of docs over here which has some knowledge files for your AI to kind of know what you're doing. There's a cheat sheet which is probably a more condensed version of for yourself to understand what's happening. This is not really meant for AI, but then there's a delivery guide which kind of uh, teaches your AI how to use the delivery module, and then there's also a workshop.md file which is probably like the biggest superset of all the project's knowledge. So just pass it on to your AI, and then pretty much knows what to do. And yeah, so for the part one, we have three folders: part one, part two, and part three. And for part one, we just have the UI module, which is this one, and I've already built it over here. You can see it right here. This is the LGX file that I was talking about. So once you build the file from source, it's going to be in your LGX file. You can export it wherever you want, but I have it right inside the result portable folder, and you can just import this specific file into the modules over here, and it should get imported. In my case, it's already imported. It's logos hello world. So this is the module that I was talking about. And looking at the code, I think the two main files that I personally look at are these two. The first one is the metadata.json. This has your project's metadata, just the name of your package, and then versions, and also descriptions and just the metadata. And then the next file that you look at is main.qml. This is the Qt file, and you have the front end written in Qt over here. And this is basically the whole Qt layout for our application. And it can simply show hello world. And okay, let's give that a shot. Let me try loading it. It's right here. I can just put my name here, say hi, and it says hello guru. So this is pretty much about the hello world application. And the code is very lightweight for you to understand how to kind of build a module and export it as a .lgx file. And once you do this, you can like I said, you can just go here, install the package, and then you should see it over here. And I've also pushed the lgx package into GitHub. So even if you're not interested to touch the code, but if you just want to try importing a package, you can just download this particular file from GitHub and try importing it. So that's for the part one. I hope we understood what are the two main files. The QML file is the one that holds the front end, and this is pretty much the only thing that's required. And the flake files over here are for building the specific .lgx package. So yeah, they are pretty much used in compilation. And I don't really know what happens here, because again, I'm 2 weeks old for C++, but yeah, I think they do the job pretty well, and I have all of it documented in the knowledge file. So it should get your job done. You just have to tell your AI to build the LGX file after you kind of write the Qt part and also the metadata, and then it should get it done. You can also optionally add an icon for this. I have this particular icon for the sidebar. So yeah, now that we are done with part one, part two is a bit more complex. Like I mentioned before, we have two different modules here. The first one being the UI plugin, which is very similar to the Qt module that we built with Hello World. Over here, you can see a very similar layout. For the to-do app, you need a bunch of to-dos. But before we jump into the code, I can also show you a preview of how the To-Do app works. This is the To-Do app. Let's try loading it. And if something happens like this at times, you just have to quit it and then reopen it. That's what I do to solve my issues. Yeah. So yeah, the package manager works now. So you can see that there's a lot of packages here, and this package that we are using for the third part, which is the delivery module, which is installed over here. You can see it's installed right here, and it's a core module. So in the third part of this workshop, we will just be building an UI that uses this particular core module along with another core module, which is more like a supplementary core module. But yeah, before that, let's go back to the second part, which is the To-Do app. And over here in the To-Do app, I have some sample to-dos. It uses SQLite database in the core module, and then in the front end, which is the UI plugin, it just implements this whole interface as a Qt app. So yeah, you can find the code for the Qt app over here in main.qml. Yeah, it's pretty simple, and the code is honestly very human understandable. It's not like C++ for me. This looks very easy for me to understand. Just feels like looking at a JSON file for me. But yeah, you have all the front end over here, and that's for the UI module, and very similar to what we had with the Hello World example app earlier. And we have a To-Do core module, which is something that works along with this. So the UI module or the UI plugin talks to the core module, and the core module is doing the heavy lifting, which is basically interacting with the SQLite database, making sure that the to-dos are persistent and stuff. So over here, you have all the code in C++ for this particular module in the 3 files over here. So yeah, that's pretty much all you need for the backend for a To-Do app. And none of these apps, which is part 1 and part 2, have any interactions with the blockchain, messaging, or the storage layer. This is simply to understand how Logos Basecamp works and how you can kind of build modules into Basecamp. And this way, we kind of evade the whole browser-based technologies, and we are just looking at local-first technologies that can safeguard your privacy. So that's for part 1 and part 2. And let's also try adding a to-do. I can say eat a watermelon. And this should add it over here, but if it's not going to add it, I'm sure there's something wrong. Okay, I don't think it's working, but then let's try to check this, or maybe uncheck this, or check this. Yeah, let's refresh it. Checking works, and maybe let's try reopening this after closing it to see if it's like still persistent. Cool, it is persistent. So the SQLite functionality works in some regard, but I don't know what I did with the code base earlier today to stop this adding part working, but I'll get this fixed after the workshop. But yeah, this is a very basic example that kind of helps you understand how a core module and the UI module work together, and how they are interdependent when you're working on bigger projects that require far more beyond just UI. And yeah, this is the part 2 completed now, and we are heading to part 3, which is the polling app. And for some reason, I call this voting in the first few minutes of me vibe coding this. So most of the naming is like a bit inconsistent, but this is also something that I should be fixing in my next push. But yeah, we have two different modules, the core module for the logic and the UI module. And we also talk to the logos delivery module, which we just installed earlier over here. So you can see that the delivery module is installed. And this is a core module which helps you talk to logos messaging. And you can simply install modules by pressing this and then hitting the install button. This is going to get a module installed for you. Yeah, so I just installed the chat SDK UI module and I can see it over here. So all the UI modules that you install appear over here. So I have the delivery module installed, but this is a core module, so you don't really see it over here, but it's a functionality that's already installed. And this helps you run a logos messaging node and kind of interact with the APIs for your logos messaging node that you run. And that's exactly what the third application is going to do, which is the voting app. So in the voting app UI, again, we have our main.qml, which has all the front end that we require for the app. And again, metadata in metadata.json. The icon is right inside the icons folder. And then most of these things are kind of, they're just like building essentials. So you don't really have to dig deep into them. AI is going to do most of your heavy lifting for that. And we also have the scaffold repository, which is not really updated, but yeah, I think eventually the scaffold repository should be a lot more it should be a lot more maintained and should have you should give you functionalities like what each scaffold gives you, which is making transactions, signing a transaction, or creating a wallet, and all of those things. That's our idea for the scaffold repository. But then, yeah, for polling, we have the UI, which we just looked into, and then there's also a core module, which is something that interacts with the delivery module. And all the logic here is within this. I'm not going to go into this for the sake of time. I guess we have like 9 more minutes. But then, yeah, this is where we make all the interactions for the delivery module. I think I can give you an example here. You can see that this particular line of code here is used for unsubscribing from a specific content topic. And I hope you know about content topics already from the previous workshops, but if you haven't checked it out, I think the last workshop from Vaslav is really helpful in understanding how logos messaging works and how the network is structured as content topics and how you filter messages out of them. There's also different protocols that you can use within logos messaging, and you can understand all these protocols by looking at the previous video. Or you can also go to the docs, look at the delivery guide, and over here I have like a lot of methods listed along with the purpose of each and every method. It's somewhere in here, but then, yeah, for an example, you have the method for unsubscribing from a content topic here. There's also other methods, could be like starting a node, I guess. Here, this should be starting a node and getting the connection, and this is for creating the node. So basically you create the node, which is initializing the node with a JSON file which holds all the nodes properties, which includes the fleet which you're communicating to. We have currently 2 fleets. There's a logos.dev fleet, which is this one. You pass this into the preset, and this fleet talks to the logos messaging network without using RLN, which we previously saw, rate limiting nullifiers, for DOS protection. So RLN is still work in progress. So I think logos.dev fleet is a lot more stable for making sure that your messages are delivered across the network. But yeah, you can also use the RLN feed at some point for having your network-wide DOS limiting protection. But yeah, I would strongly recommend against using RLN right now and to use logos.dev because this is the dev fleet that we use at this point. But you can also see how the protobuf definitions are. Protobufs are the way in which we define each and every message that goes on through the Logos messaging network. And this is also somewhere below. But yeah, you can see how to push a message into a content topic and also subscribe to a content topic. So all of the code that you need for this lives over here in these 3 files. And let's look at the output. For this, I think it's this one. Yeah. So yeah, we have the voting UI, which has create polls and join poll. You also have a button over here to start a node. But for the sake of this tutorial, we'll need two instances of Logos Basecamp to test this. So I kind of made like a quick hack to get 2 instances running on your machine, which use 2 different Logos messaging nodes. And to do this, I've included this right inside the README file here. And in the README file, you can see that there's running multiple instances of Basecamp in one machine. And this is all you have to do to get multiple instances. For example, I have one instance running already, which uses port 60,000 for TCP for running your Logos messaging node. But if you have another instance using the same port, that's not going to work. So you need like 2 instances that run 2 different ports. And to run another instance, I kind of tweaked with the Logos Basecamp app. Again, this knowledge is available in the workshop.md file. But to do this, you just run this particular command. And once you tweak it, obviously, you run this command. And then this helps you run another instance. Let me try doing it. Oh. Or the best part, you don't even have to do all this. You just go to clock code and say run 2 instances of Logos Basecamp and just pass this up. Because I'm not really sure where my binaries are for Logos Basecamp inside my file system. So my Claude code is going to take care of that. And yeah, so it found it, runs me another instance. Oh, looks like we have 3 instances now, so I'm not going to bother about the first one. But yeah, let's try using the polling app with both of these instances. Let's open the one over here and another one here. So let's start the node here. And it's connected with peers in the logos.dev fleet. And the other one says error, which is probably because it's using the same port and Claude code didn't really start it on a different port. But you can ask it to so this should get us a different instance. I hope this uses a different port. Oops. Cool, it does use a different port. So now we have 2 different instances connected and connected to Logos messaging. And let's try creating a poll here. We can call the poll fruit. This is identifier for your polling session. But again, this was done within a span of 30 minutes, so don't expect the logic to be bulletproof. Just look at it as an example app and look at the Logos messaging and delivery module functionalities rather than the business business case side of it, because I'm pretty sure you can build a better voting app in like a few more minutes. Like if you spend 15 more minutes, I think this can look in a completely different way. But yeah, let's create a poll. And this is also just a yes or no poll at this point. So I'm going to say, do you like fruits or watermelons? Because I like watermelons. So I created this, and the ID for this is fruit. So the second instance should connect to the same ID, which we have over here. And if you already know about content topics, we pass this ID into the content topic so that both of these peers get connected. And content topics just kind of handle these things without having to do a lot in your logic. But yeah, let me join the poll, which is fruit, and I say join poll, and I can see that do you like watermelons on both the sides, which basically used Logos messaging to sync both of these instances. And these instances can run on two different machines, two different continents, wherever, but then they can talk anonymously by Logos messaging. So let's try voting yes, which ended up crashing my first instance, but at least the vote came into the other one, so we know the vote works. But yeah, let's try saying vote no, and then yeah, it says one yes vote and one no vote. So that's pretty much it for the polling app. I don't think it crashes every time like this. It's just like once in a while. But then yeah, you can look at the way to interact with Logos messaging by using this particular code base. And we don't really have documentation for this yet. So all I had to do was to kind of reverse engineer into all of these modules and apps earlier as a non C++ developer and kind of understand how these things work. And yeah, all this happened in a matter of 30 minutes. So if I can do that in 30 minutes, and if you know C++ already, I would strongly recommend you to start building on top of Logos already, because it's quite early. And if you build, let's say, an atomic swap on top of this, which interacts with the blockchain module, that's going to be crazy, because I don't think anyone within Logos has gone that far, but it's definitely not impossible. You have pretty much all of the things open source on our GitHub repositories, and you can build modules already. If you are early into the ecosystem, you get more bragging rights, because you get to hear more feedback than someone who comes later into the ecosystem. So yeah, definitely reach out to us if you have any more questions about building on top of Logos. This is definitely a very early experiment of trying to build modules on top of Logos Basecamp, but I hope this code base helps you understand all of this. I'm guessing this is already pushed into my GitHub. Let me try looking at my repository. Yeah, you can find this over here. It's github.com/hackyguru/logos-workshop. And you can see all of this in there. I will make some fixes in the next few minutes to make sure that the abrupt breaking does not happen with the Basecamp app. But yeah, once that is done, expect me to push fix in the next few minutes, and you can use this knowledge files as useful references for building any module. But I know we are over time. I'm going to take 3 more minutes to show you how simple it can be to build an app on top of Logos. Again, this is not the right way to do a production ready app, but what's wrong in hacking? So let me try bringing the cheat sheet into this. So oh, sorry, it's not the cheat sheet, it's the workshop. So this has all the project's knowledge. Let's say use the knowledge from workshop.md to build a simple what app would you like to see? Let me see if I have some responses from the audience. If there's anything on the chat, I'm just gonna say plot to build it. If it's not working, don't blame me, but I want an idea in the chat. If someone can just say something very simple, I can show you how fast it can work. I don't see a message here. Maybe just a simple uh, Tinder, maybe Tinder app or dating app. Yeah, so this is pretty much my whole prompt, and this is going to use my knowledge file to build something for you. Let's see how long this can take. uh, yeah, I think the dating app is probably one thing that every single developer tries to build after you start learning a new framework. At least for me, when I try to learn uh, React Native, I try to build a dating app because that has most of the logic that you need to understand for interacting with an API or using a database and everything. But yeah, let's see how this could look like inside Logos Basecamp. I mean, having a privacy preserving dating app baked into Logos Basecamp could be really nice. At least the kind of people that you meet from this dating app are going to be really into your interests. You don't, or at least people who really care about their privacy. So, yeah, you're attracting a very niche crowd. Let's see. I don't have high hopes on this at all, but I'm going to be very surprised if this works in the first like one shot. Uh, I'm pretty sure this is going to take like a few more minutes, maybe 3 or 4 more minutes. Yeah, I mean, I do remember about this Ashley Madison security breach. I'm pretty sure, like the so-called high-profile individuals would have like a proxy to use in their dating app just to make sure that they don't reveal their identities. I've heard a lot of celebrities do this. They have like a different person who looks like them on the profile picture, and then this like that's how they handle privacy. So something like this could be useful. Yeah, the date can happen in Logos messaging topics. We can also give you like a um, you know a really private version of Snapchat. We know why people use Snapchat more than people use WhatsApp. At least from what I've seen with people around me, I think people use Snapchat because the messages don't no longer live. But for a normie, they don't really know every single message that you send to a different person on a centralized network gets saved at some point. Like you save it into an S3 bucket, or it gets saved somewhere, and most of the users don't even know about how client side encryption or decryption works. So that's why people use Snapchat, because their images are supposed to be private. So you can actually build a real private discrete chat app and bake it into the dating app that we have right now, and kind of have something, yeah, something that people would love using. Ephemeral dating, that could be a name. Let's see, I think we're in the final stages. I'm also pretty sure this is going to take a while to build the .lgx file. Oh, this is also pushing the code into GitHub. Uh, I'm not sure if I want people who lurk around my GitHub to see that I built a dating app of this sort, but yeah, why not? All right, so it's building the .lgx file. Once it is built, the climax for this workshop is to import this .lgx file into Basecamp. If it opens up, I'm just going to create an issue on my own repository. But yeah, let's see what happens. We're so close to the climax. And also for people who are wondering how I always allow for my Claude, I have something that I built for myself last week to kind of make sure that my Claude can't access the other files, and I call this clockage. You can find more about this at clockage.hackyguru.com, and this is basically like a virtual environment for your claw, any kind of agent. It can be an open claw or a Claude code, any agent to run within your Apple virtualization. So if you have an Apple Mac, you can install this particular desktop app, and yeah, you can create a cage, and the agent can't really go outside it. So I'm very confident about it not crossing my, yeah. So basically it has its own environment, so it can't really access my other stuff that I don't have, that I don't give access to. I think the heavy lifting is happening right now because my Mac is kind of getting stuck every few seconds. So I'm guessing we're close to the LGX file getting built. I definitely think the dating app was kind of an overkill. Should have been something like a chat app, I guess. But yeah, I didn't get much of inspiration from the chat, so I had to say something. I like how Claude is more impatient than me. It's just like checking every few seconds to see if the build has completed, but it's still going on and it thinks something is wrong. All right, one more minute, and if it does not happen, you can find the dating app in the same repository. But yeah, if you can just try running the LGX file after it is built on your uh, own Basecamp application, and I hope you find someone interesting over there. Or it could just be Claude talking on the other side. You never know. That's so cool how it kind of set up a task notification for this particular task. And I just got to know these task notifications go inside the .cloud folder. And yeah, I don't completed. anytime soon. So I think this is a good point to end the workshop. But yeah, I hope you found this to be useful. I don't think we've had any developer focusing material for interacting with the delivery module yet. And again, it's not yet documented. So stay tuned for updates. There should be a documentation available very soon, but I just wanted to go a bit one step ahead and see how interacting with our modules can look like. So yeah, this is a good time to end this particular demo.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining, and
Hello.
if you have any
I'm back
questions,
again.
join us.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Guru. Very interesting, the workshop there. Hopefully you guys have learned a bit more about the logo stack and how to get vibe coding with it all. And you can now start building some cool private apps. Yeah, keep these reactions going. That was a very good workshop. And let Guru know in the chat how much you appreciate that, guys. Next workshop is next Monday. We have Vibecode session number 2. Where we're going to be learning how to build something private with logos. And this is going to be held by Vaclav, so Guru won't be returning, I'm afraid. And this is at 12 p.m. BST, so midday if you're here in the UK. I'll send a reminder, as ever, on the Discord announcements channel with a little countdown so you can see exactly when it's going to be. And then, of course, we have office hours, which are at 1 p.m. BST, again, UK time, 1 p.m. on Friday. And you can find those, the link to that is on the platform page. So come armed with any technical questions and the Logos team will be there on hand. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you very much, Guru, for that workshop. And I will see you guys all again on Monday. All right. Bye, guys. Bye-bye.